Hey, good evening, everybody. Hey, I am so happy to be back with you again tonight. Last Wednesday night, the message was 10 tips for parenting from the King family. And man, I had a good time doing that. And I sure do appreciate a lot of really positive response from that. I have to say that I think that the overwhelming majority of that wisdom I tried to share last week came from Janet, okay? She just has motherhood in her DNA, and she's just so good, and I feel so blessed to be married to her. Tonight, I'm going to kind of go the next direction with that, and I want to give you 10 little pieces of advice about having a good and sweet Christian marriage. And this is a very dear subject to me. And let me read a number of verses for you before I get into those 10 little pieces of advice. Just some verses about marriage. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." Now, just a quick word about that. That verse is repeated twice in the Gospels, and then one more time in the book of Ephesians chapter 5. And so for God to have put the same verse in the Bible 4 times, it tells you a lot about the importance and significance of a verse like that. And so I would encourage you to really take that verse very seriously. Here's another one, Proverbs chapter 18, verse 22. I love this one. "Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing." Hebrews chapter 13, verse 4, "Marriage is honorable." And I'll just give you one other one, Colossians 3:19. "Husbands, love your wives and be not bitter against them." I have found a lot of spouses bitter against their spouse because, when you live together for a number of years, you accumulate many reasons to be bitter. But the Bible says don't do that. Don't let that bitterness creep into your heart toward your husband or toward your wife. You got to be on guard about things like that. Now, I know that most likely anybody watching this video, you probably know who my wife is, but I brought a couple of pictures just in case. Let me just hold this one really, really close here. That is a picture of me and my sweet bride when we were in college. We were just dating, and I keep that on my desk. And as sweet as she is now, she was just as sweet back then. And we were out sitting on Lookout Mountain in the snow. That was a little advance notice of things to come. And then this is one. This was taken a number of years ago. Janet looks exactly the same, but you may notice on the top of my head there are some things growing out there that are no longer growing. But I love that picture of us, and I keep that in my office also. God has given us 33 beautiful years together, just beautiful years together. Last night, Janet was sitting on the couch, and she was adjusting some flight arrangements. We're going to go out and see Nathan and Alyssa out in California, and our newest grandchild, Silas. And as she was just adjusting our flights on her laptop, I was just sitting there looking at her, and I thought, good night. I am so blessed to get to look across the living room at her every night. What a beautiful life God has given me to be able to share it with her. And I mean that sincerely. I really do. I consider myself blessed. Last week, what I shared about parenting, I feel like I've been an okay dad. I do. I feel like I've done all right. I wouldn't give myself a D or an F or anything like that. But I don't think that. I think marriage has been probably my better side. Now, I've got great kids. Janet was not a big fan of the teen years. I was not really the biggest fan of the infant and toddler years, just because I like to have conversations, But so I can't say that I've always related to every stage of parenthood, but I can say that every stage of marriage has just been a joy. Now, part of that has got to be because Janet and I we both had some biblical training in this before we got started. Now that helps, okay? If you are catching yourself a little behind in having a biblical marriage, let me just say that there is hope, and you can catch up. You really can. But we did have a little heads up, a little advance help with this. But what I would like to say to you is that I do feel like that Janet and I are both, this marriage matter is something that I think that we've done a pretty good job with. I think she's very happy with me, and I know I'm very happy with her. And I want to just share very quickly here, and time is moving quickly, so I got to hurry. But let me just share with you what I believe are the top 10 things that help a marriage to succeed. The first one, number one, is to be kind always. To be kind always. Now, it is easy to be kind when it is easy to be kind. Okay, but when I say to be kind always, that means to be kind even when it's not easy to be kind. When your spouse is having a difficult day, it is more important to be kind then. Whenever they are doing things that you just really like, well, anybody can be kind at times like that. That doesn't take any real character or discipline to do that. But be kind always. Number two is church must be a priority. Church must be a priority. Janet has never asked me, as the husband, as the man of the family, she's never asked me, are we going to church tomorrow? That question has never been asked. This is what we do. Okay, and I want to say to you that going to a Bible teaching church will help you make a marriage stronger. And I want to encourage you to be in a church that is a biblical church, not a feel-good church, not a hip and cool. Be in a biblical church. That will help your marriage to soar and do better. The third one, now this would be my wife's favorite one. Whenever anybody asks her for a word of advice about marriage, she always gives what I'm going to tell you as number three, and that is don't be selfish. Do not be selfish. Listen, if you want a marriage to just utterly, horribly, embarrassingly fail, then you put yourself first. Okay. Now, sadly, I have heard secular marriage counselors tell people you must maintain your individuality. To that, I want to say, no, you do not maintain your individuality. That's not marriage. The word marriage means to blend, to mix together. You don't maintain your individual. That's like looking at a glass of milk and a bottle of chocolate syrup and say, all right, I'm going to put you two in a blender and I'm going to make chocolate milk, but I want you two to maintain your individuality. No, when you make chocolate milk, the chocolate and the milk lose their individuality. They lose that. Okay, when you're married to somebody, you are not you anymore. You are now y'all. Okay, does that make sense? I know a little Southern lingo for you there. I apologize, but don't be selfish. You're not in this for you anymore. You're not in this to make yourself happy anymore. And what I'll tell you will find is that if you strive to make your spouse a happy person, you'll find out that you're going to reap the benefits of that in a much greater way. Number four is the golden rule. The golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So never speak to your spouse in a way that you don't want to be spoken to. Never spend money in a way you don't want money to be spent. Never use a tone of voice that you don't want that tone of voice used on you. Never make decisions that you don't want similar decisions made on you. Just do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You have to ask yourself, every word that comes out of your mouth, how would I feel if that was being spoken to me? That is a great help for having a happy marriage. Number four is parenting agreement. Do you know when you should decide on how to raise your children? Before the children come. Okay, but if you already got children at home and you're still not decided as to what music is allowed in the house, what TV shows are allowed to be watched, what entertainment devices are allowed, is a computer going to be allowed in the bedroom, are they allowed to go to this type of a function, that type. If you have not decided those things, you're a little late in the game. So what you need to do is the two of you need to go off somewhere and you need to write down every issue that you can deal with parenting and come to an agreement on those things. But you certainly cannot disagree over parenting guidelines with your children present. Number six is pray together. My wife and I, we pray together every night before we go to bed. You might say, well, that's just a ritual or a tradition. Yeah, but it's a good one. It's a really good one. Let me give you number 7, and that's dating and togetherness. Dating and togetherness. Now, my wife and I have had a tradition for a long, long time that on Mondays we go out for dates. Okay, we've done this for a long time. Our lunch on Mondays, we always have it together. That's because we've always been able to make it where we're free on Mondays. Now, you may not have that luxury to be free on Mondays, but what I would say is you have to make sure you are free sometime. You have to be together. You have to be together. Now, you might say, well, I'm not a quality time type person. You need to become a quality time type person. I'm sure that many of you have heard of the 5 Love Language book, and it's a great book. It's a wonderful book. What I would say to you is this, that no matter what your love language is, you need quality time. Okay, meet in the middle is number 8. You don't have to always get your way. My wife and I, we are not exactly the same on every issue, but we have found common ground and we have both blended into it comfortably. Number 9 is keep thee only unto her. That's out of the marriage vows. Keep thee only unto her. Faithfulness. Listen, I don't flirt with other women. Okay, I am incredibly cautious in how I talk to other women. Janet sees every text conversation. Our phones sync, so she sees every phone call. And I want it that way. I want her to know, because I don't want to ever have any relationship with another woman that is inappropriate. Keep thee only unto her. That means not just my body to be kept to her, that no other woman is romantic with me. I'm not romantic with another woman. Not just that, my eyes have to be faithful to Janet. Keep thee only unto her. And then the last one is keep her number 2. Keep her, or him if you're a woman, number 2. Jesus is towers above Janet. Okay, Janet is treated better in that number 2 spot than she would be if I put her in that number 1 spot. I feel very comfortable being number 2 in her life, and she feels very comfortable being number 2 in my life, only to Jesus. Now, let me tell you, the number 3 spot is a 4-way tie with our children, and now a 4-way tie with the grandchildren. But beneath that number 3 spot and 4 spot, it is way down there. It is Jesus way high, and then Janet way high, and then the kids. That's the priority level, and she thrives in the number 2 spot. I thrive in the number 2 spot. Listen, if Jesus is not number 1 in your life, and in every word that comes out of your mouth, every attitude you display, every decision you make, every function you involve yourself in, if he's not number 1, you might as well just go ahead and cash it in right now. You're going to have some tough times, not just in marriage, but in life. You know, marriage can be heaven on earth. It can be heaven on earth if you do it the Lord's way. Unfortunately, sometimes it's hell on earth. It really is, because people just determined to go into it bullheaded, stubborn, mind made up. I'm not budging. I'm not, just with a fighting spirit. It's not going to work like that. Won't you hit the pause button, push the rewind button, go back a little bit, start this thing, do it the right way.